Okay, everybody, I pooched it. My bad. What the hell? Okay. And just like that, all of my scenes changed and what have you. So, well, everybody, welcome. So, do not adjust your screen. I'm in like, oh, boy, that is trash. So, for those of you watching, I appear to be in skipped frame hell right now. Huh. Um I'm on travel for my work. My workplace thought that it would be a good idea for everybody to have a get together and to fly everybody from various parts of the world to come hang out. Um, oh, okay. Make sure I have Discord. Okay, let's close the stream information because I can't see all the inputs. All right. Okay, good. From all corners of the galaxy, to team build and build teams and to see people. And why do I not have any viewers? Okay, let me double check here. All right, so I am live, my channel. Okay, am I streaming? Let me make sure. Stream manager, I have one viewer. All right, excellent. Thank you, one viewer. Appreciate you for coming and hanging out. I'm sorry I did start the stream sooner than that. I didn't have the right name. So I'm in my hotel room, sucking down hotel air conditioning and slowly getting sick. But we've come from all parts of the galaxy. So we have some folks from Cambridge, England. We have some folks from the UK, other parts of the UK, uh, from the East Coast, Central, Seattle, where I came from, have some folks even local to this area, all got together as part of our security team from various parts of our security team because we have a fairly decent organizational security team. And got to meet one another and share ideas. And it was for the first time, like myself, the first time a lot of folks had gotten together and seen people in meet space, or as B-Side Seattle called it, meeting in 3D. So we all met in 3D, all three dimensions, and yeah, I hate I hate admitting this because I have been a staunch supporter of work from home. Matter of fact, I one of the reasons I left one of my previous jobs was because I had never met my new boss. Most of my team members were in Maryland, Florida, Minneapolis, Seattle. I was the only person in Seattle. So I had never met, I still hadn't to this day met half of my team that I was working at with CrowdStrike, and because we were completely remote. I think we met one time in DC for a couple days, but that was people that I had only worked with nominally. And you know, I don't I don't hate the idea of having an office to go to if there's an option for that. I know that there are some people vehemently opposed to working in person, and I understand that. That's fair. They have their reasons. I had always assumed that I was better worker at at home, and I have found just being here from pretty much Tuesday and today, just these 2 days, and I've got one more day at work. Uh, there are definite benefits to having FaceTime with people you work with. I mean, it's just a different vibe. I mean, I had a question about something and I went, I could just I respected people's boundaries. I didn't just walk up like I would have done in the past. I did hit them up on our internal Slack and say, "Hey, do you have a minute? I would like to come by and ask you a few questions," which is something you can't do when somebody lives in Cambridge, England, or, outside of Londinium or what have you. So, of course they said, yeah, I'm here in the office. You don't have to say anything. I was like, well, I want to respect your personal space. I want to respect your boundaries. I don't want to be that person who just, walks by and bugs you in the middle of work. And so, you know, I mean, we get enough of that when we're working from home and somebody will just blast you on Twitch, not Twitch, but on Slack. So, but it was nice. You could walk up, we were asking questions, we were talking about things, we had some discussions and chats about what each of our teams were working on. It was very collaborative. We had people who were, oh yeah, we're working on this little initiative. Well, not a little initiative, and I don't want to minimize things. They were working on several initiatives that were actually tangential to some of the stuff that we're doing in our group, and we didn't know that. You know, we, there is communication in when we're working from home, but it's not the same. You know, you can't talk about, you can talk about the local football game, or you can talk about, other things other than work. When you're in meet space, it's really hard to have that kind of rapport. Um, seems like when you're remote, and it no matter the pandemic, we tried to do things like team building exercises, like the stupid drawing games and stuff like that. Those are great, but there's only so many of those that you can do. Um, and oh, so my stream elements finally caught up with me. Great. Um, so I've gotten a lot out of just being, and even people in my own team. I mean, me and my fellow coworker that I'm on security team with. We're both in Seattle, but I mean, we've only had in the 8 months that we've been working together. This is the most time we've spent together talking about things. We had an hour's lunch one time offsite. I drove into Seattle. He drove in from where he was. But it's interesting. The dynamic is so different when people are together. I don't want to say it's more friendly, but I think the fact that you're always in a meeting with somebody and it's two-dimensional like this, there's no depth perception, or what have you, but it's like you just see this person who's on a webcam like this, and it's it's different. I don't know if they could create. Yeah, I don't know, but I'm all in on these things now. I still don't want to have to drive 90 minutes a day into an office because none of these people are going to be in that office with me. But, the next on-site we have in the next 3 months, I will be the first in line to come, because it's like I like meeting these folks. The free food and the free events and the building events aren't bad. We just got back from something called Top Golf. Um, it is well, let me pull it up. It's pretty much like a driving range, but you have like targets out there, and it's all like very computerized, and there's three decks of this, and it's not bad. Yeah. So okay, so see what lady is. There's a machine that will dispense balls to you, and she's up in what looks like the second or third floor, and you whack the golf ball with your stick, club in this case, and there's games that are on this big screen right in front of you, and we were doing like Angry Birds. So you whack the ball with the club, depending on which direction the ball goes, because there's some kind of tracking system. We were actually we were we we were trying to figure out and reverse engineer how the ball is being tracked, because the one of the ladies there had told us that it was an RFID chip inside the ball, and whatever, and we were trying to, yeah, see, so okay, that's a little weird. Yeah, so we were trying to figure out how it worked, and the only thing we could figure out was that there's a camera system above us, and sensors in the netting that goes around the fencing, and we were trying to reverse engineer the whole system, trying to figure out how to make it work. So But it was a great time. I mean, we sat around and for 2 hours, and we joked and laughed, and, I think I don't have a problem with anything that we did, and, I found it very, very helpful. So if we do another one of these things in, let me see, what is it? May? So let's say we do it in the fall. We may not do it here in LA. We may go some other place. I wouldn't mind it. If we're bringing a bunch of people from Cambridge to the United States, there's no reason why we can't bring people from the US to Cambridge. So maybe I'll be over in the UK, which might be a bit harder. A.T. Johnson N. Remote is different, but in some ways it seems better for my more socially reclusive team members. They seem more likely to speak up. You know what? That is fair. I won't, I definitely can see that where you might feel like, because I know there's a lot of people that just don't like to turn their cameras on when they're at home either. Whether they just, don't feel like they want to be on camera like this, you turn your camera off, and then you feel like you still have your anonymity and what have you. There were some people that did not want to travel, and our boss was completely okay with that. We still had events, we still had the web conferencing up for them, and yeah, I mean yeah, like you said, At John, and thank you for the question and stuff. Yeah, I mean, it definitely was a risk thing. There were some people that were like, "Yeah, I'm still a little weirded out about COVID." I definitely masked up a lot in every Uber that I took. I mean, I was masked up probably better than 80% of the time in the office as well, um, because there were other folks there that were still masking up, and I wanted to make them feel comfortable, but I still would have done it anyway. I mean, I was masked up on the plane too, so um, yeah, I mean, I mean, and then I read about this monkeypox thing. Oh, hey, April, how you doing? Glad you could come and hang out. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate that. Oh, I even have another follower, CH716. Thank you so much for coming. Oh, so the minute I told people on my Discord, which you can join if you'd like, if anybody's watching and they'd like to join, we go to Discord. You can either go to Discord and do this, or you can use our vanity thing, Discord.gg breaksec, because we're level 3. Where it says it information. No, oh yeah, there you go. You can go and join that. We have a code of conduct. We have moderators, etc. I'd like to. I am late tonight. Yes, I had actually tried doing it last night, but the hotel wanted me to. I could not figure out how to get their premium internets. Because the hotel internet was like 6 down, 9 up, and I was like, I didn't know if that was going to support a stream or not. So the premium version was like 20 and 20, so 20 down, 20 up, which is not ideal, but I'm streaming a 1080p stream right now with no lag or loss, so that's pretty good. So the minute I told people that I was coming down to LA this week, MT Taggart reached out to me. One of our streaming friends hit me up on the side and said, "Hey, I live in LA. I live, where are you going to be?" And he said, "I live in West LA." And I was like, "What do you mean West LA? Are you talking like Santa Monica or San Luis Obispo or what?" And because I told him where I was going to be, which was around the LAX area. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm like 10 minutes from LAX." I was like, "Well, I'm going to be 10 minutes from LAX myself." So we met at the Los Angeles Ale House. I took an Uber. So, and um, you know what? That is a genuinely good dude. I'll tell you what. We met at 6:30. Before you know it, I was freezing my ass off because it was 9 o'clock at night, and we talked about everything. I mean, we talked about family, we talked about friends, we talked about work, we talked about the pitfalls of our respective industries. I mean, he works in education, I work in infosec and IoT security. Uh, we talked about our streaming and what it was like to stream and what we were trying to get out of those things, and ideas for streaming. We have ideas. We have ideas for collaborative things to do. I'm excited. But seriously, if y'all do only one thing this week, I want you to go twitch.tv MT Taggart. I want you to follow him because he is an awesome, awesome person and is just a legitimately good person. Sorry, Super Lolly. Yes, I have been at work all day and had a team building event, and um, yeah, I can't guarantee that I will forever be doing 8 o'clock p.m. streams or almost 9 o'clock p.m. streams my time. Um, but I do appreciate you coming and hanging out. But if you don't follow MT Taggart, you're missing out on some good stuff, and he is a legitimately excellent person. So we're actually thinking about doing some things together. Um, things of a security nature, but other things that are not necessarily of a security nature. He was interested in some of the ideas for gaming that I was wanting to do. So it may be that we do kind of a partnership or a simulcast of a RPG game or something on our respective channels. Um, but yeah, legitimately good person, and I didn't even have to get an Uber back to the hotel. He drove me back to the hotel. That was so awesome of him. Um, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, super. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. His discussion about a open source sock kind of thing on Saturdays is really good. Yeah, the IDS and IPS stuff over here. Um, yeah, this stuff. Yeah, he's going through some of that. But yeah, he's got some pretty awesome production values too. So yeah, if you get a chance to check his stuff out, yeah, I would suggest going and doing so. Oh, we got a couple people on. Chill hot me. Okay, Maker Deck. I am Danny Delight, Ink and Liar. Okay. But yeah, I don't have anything else planned. Tomorrow night I'll be packing to head back to Seattle. I have a 1 p.m. flight. So probably won't be streaming Friday. I'll probably be back on either Saturday or Sunday. We need to record some podcasts anyway for Breaksec audio. But yeah, yeah, it was just a great week. Unless something just completely implodes tomorrow at work, you know. I do not enjoy. It is very noisy at work. I mean, and unlike with my cats, I can give them some treats and tell them to shut up. I can't do that with my coworkers or my boss. So it was very open. It's like it's open space, but I mean there is dividers between the you're sharing a and I'm on one side and somebody's over here and I can't see them because I'm my standing desk. But yeah, I would have. I still don't like the open office design. If there was some way you could escape that, I mean, they had like little quiet telephone booth kind of things. But yeah, it was. I'll do it again if we have another one down here in LA. I'll definitely come to it. But it was pretty awesome. So I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, Super Lolly. Yeah, his red team stuff is excellent. I mean, he just goes the extra mile. So have a bit of a crush, I think, on MT Taggart in a purely professional and platonic way. So, if you will. But since I've been kind of unplugged this week, I thought I'd go and look through some of the news that's happened. I mean, I heard about monkeypox on Twitter. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Hey, Digital Warhead, what's up? Hey, everybody. Yeah, there's Brack. Yeah, that's Brack. Some of our Brack is one of our, I believe, our subscriber uh, emotes. So if you are looking for those, you can subscribe and you get some stickers and cool things. So yeah, apparently VMware is bad. So last month, attackers quickly reversed a VMware patch to launch RCE attacks, and CISA warns that it's going to happen again. I didn't. Oh, I sound a little cracky. Again, the other thing I hate about traveling is hotels because I've had to turn the air conditioning off every night because I just can't handle that. So, but I've been trying to keep. Oh, and I talk a lot more when I'm at work instead of when I'm at home. So I've been tiring out my throat. So, hmm. Digital Warhead. I am in the LA area, around the area of Los Angeles International Airport. I will refrain from giving you the exact location, not for security reasons, but it's OPSEC, so yeah. Um, Apparently, CISA has found out that once people put out patches like VMware or even Windows, the next day, reverse engineering people tend to like to reverse engineer those patches and look at the diffs between them and the actual other things and figure out, what the changes were. I think it's been what years. Everybody considers Wednesday to be like, you know, reverse engineering Wednesday or something like that, where it's like, you're finding O days or whatever, whatever the patches were because, somebody patched something, because of vulnerability or what have you. And then things like VMware, which has a horrible history because things like, oh, well, good, the VMware Identity Manager, great, or Cloud Foundation or any of this other stuff is all just really, really juicy and sometimes exposed to the internet because of reasons. So, Jen Easterly, I'm sure Jen knows this. People in InfoSec at large know who she is, and she's not some, political appointee. So she actually knows what she's doing. CISA has issued an emergency directive to ensure civilian agencies take urgent action to protect their networks. Oh, sorry. We also strongly urge every organization, large and small, to follow federal government's lead and take similar steps to safeguard their networks. Yep. So that's one of the downsides of not patching immediately, right? Um, Once people reverse engineer the patches that have security vulnerabilities, in them that or the code in them that stops, uh, you know, uh, RCEs or what have you. All you have to do is now find the stuff that wasn't patched and use those POCs against them. Oh, god damn it. What is this? Millions? Come on. I just saw this. It says millions of Lenovo laptops contain firmware level vulnerable. Okay. All right. Well, all right. That's not too bad. All right. 3 flaws present in consumer laptops can give attackers a way to drop highly persistent malware capable of evading methods to remove it. Oh, goody. 2 of the vulnerabilities, 2021 3971 and 3972, UEFI drivers were meant for use only during the manufacturing process, but inadvertently ended up being part of the BIOS image that shipped with the computers. Lovely. Lovely. That's just poor production right there. That's just poor production. Nobody's doing QA or something like that. Yeah, no joke, Superlaw. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I mean, the drivers in this case probably allow things like debug access or additional abilities that should be locked down in the BIOS, but because of or lack of process, it doesn't have to be dumb people. It could just be lack of good process. Um, or oh, I thought you did it. Well, no, I thought you did it. Potential vulnerability by driver used during the manufacturing process on some consumer Lenovo devices that was mistakenly not deactivated may allow an attacker with elevated privileges. Okay, so with elevated privileges, so that's what local root user by setting to modify secure boot setting by modifying an NVRAM variable. Okay. Okay. Um yeah, that's not good. So these are Idea pads, okay. Please don't be Lenovo i9s. Wow, there's a lot here. Okay. L340, 15 IWL, IRH, Legion 5. Yeah, I bet all these, I bet every one of these laptops, they all use the same. Yoga, yeah, here's the Yoga 545s, 540s, Yoga 7000s. Yeah, there's a lot of them. That's unfortunate. Yeah, because all of them use the same BIOS. Pretty much all of the Lenovo laptops would be vulnerable. Yep, Yoga C740s. Yeah, that's my daughter's right there, the 940. Yep, that's the one I just gave her to give, to myself. This lovely i9 Core i9 here with discrete graphics, and I bet it's in here too. So yeah, pretty much all of them. So yeah, there's more, but that's great. So that's the equivalent of leaving hard-coded credentials or something that allows you debug access or one of them. Jokes on them, I don't use AD. wait, wait. Although CISA also recommending you not patch active directory. Great. Let's go look at this one. Not to install May Windows updates on domain controllers. Why is that? Let us go read. Yeah, I have been out because I hadn't heard this one. Framework Protection Company. What the hell is that? Wait, what? Framework Protection Company, CISA. What? Okay. That doesn't even make sense. That's not even a proper acronym. Well, what the hell? Okay. Jeez. Okay. All right. I can't read that one because I don't know why News Post Talk is going to. So, AT Johns, and could you maybe find another post that doesn't have, women, scantily clothed and, looking for hot singles in the area or something like that. So, that would be most advantageous to me. I do apologize for anybody who saw that. Active Directory. No patchy. Yeah, AdGuard would block all that. I figured, uBlock Origin and all the other dozens of, ad block and HTML blockers would have fixed that, but it is what it is. No, it's okay. Yeah. You had no way of knowing. Okay, yeah, here's the bleeps of the computers. Okay, so I knew something was wrong because the link you sent me, they didn't even get CISA's, acronym correct. They had like framework company or something like that. Removed a security flaw from its catalog of known exploited vulnerabilities due to Active Directory authentication issues. 2 elevations of privileged vulnerabilities in Kerberos and Active Directory domain services will also cause service authentication problems when deployed on Windows Server domain controllers. Ouch. All hardware deployed with local admin and some EDR. They think that's enough because we're small. No one will target us. Yep. 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 There you go. Thank you, AT John. John's appreciate that. So, but yeah. Wow. Workaround for the auth problem. So if you did your due diligence and you actually patched within a certain amount of time, they say the company recommends manually mapping certificates to a machine account in Active Directory. Manually mapping certificates. Interesting. What is that all about? Let's see. All right. Domain administrators can manually map certificates to a user. Oh God, that. Yeah, see that workaround kind of sucks because if you're having to manually map your certificates to each particular user, and you have, I don't know, a couple thousand users, that's going to take a little while. 6 supported values for this attribute, 3 maps considered weak. Sorry, and 3 considered strong. Okay, so don't do the 3. Don't do the 3 weak ones. Do the 3 strong ones. I mean, I guess that means you have to assume that they're using these at all, but customers cannot reissue certificates with the new SID extension. Microsoft recommends you create a manual mapping of one of the strong mappings described above. You can do this by adding the appropriate string to the user's alt security identities attribute in Active Directory. Boy, that sounds painful. Goodness. Wow. Set 80 user domain. Replace alt identities. Yeah. I guess if you, it may be possible for you to, I don't know, script something up to take your list of user IDs or SIDs and do that. It could be possible to do that. If you've got, yeah, thousands of users in your environment, that would suck. Yeah. Once you've installed the updates, devices will be in compatibility mode. Certificate can be strongly mapped to a user. Authentication will occur as expected. If the certificate can only be weakly mapped to a user, authentication will occur as expected. However, a warning will be logged unless the certificate is older than the user. Wow. What? A warning will be logged unless the certificate is older than you. If the certificate is older than the user, authentication will fail. Error will be logged. Okay. Okay. So, yeah, that really sucks. So what are y'all doing about this? Has anybody patched their Active Directory and had issues? Digital Warhead, no pie hole while traveling either. Yeah, no, right now, if you saw the mess of cables I've got just to have, because so I have my computer, I have a second monitor, I have a portable monitor, 15-inch. It's not a touchscreen, it's just a piece of shit. I brought all this. I brought my, microphone, you know, but yeah, I wanted to bring everything. I actually thought about bringing my DSLR and all that stuff. And I was like, look, if something were to happen and I lose a $600 piece of camera, in addition to, laptop getting stolen or something, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to bring all that stuff. So I'm just using my Brio and it seems to be working fairly well. But yeah, yeah, no pie hole. I mean, I guess I could have set up a virtual a VM pie hole or something and done it that way. That would have worked. Yeah. That is rough. So, man. Any other mitigation except the preferred mitigations might lower or disable security hardening. Well, the and there's I don't know, man. You're going to be spending the rest of your month mapping users if you've really got tons of them. I mean, you have the same problem if you use an Azure, I wonder. Um, or will they automatically, remap the users for you? I mean, you're going to be spending real time having to, manually map these things. Maybe they could at least make a tool or something that would automatically map those things for you. So, when they, since they fucked up the patch, they should be able to at least give you some kind of easy easy workaround, you know what I mean? So, yeah, that's not good. Um, so here was another one I saw. Let me see. Brute forcing attempts of Microsoft SQL database servers using something called SQL PS, which is a PowerShell wrapper for running SQL built commandlets to run recon commands and change the start mode of the SQL service to local system. Wait, what? To run recon commands and change the start mode of the SQL service to local system. I guess now with Microsoft SQL, it doesn't run as local system, which is equivalent to like system admin or something like that. The new attackers use SQL PS to create a new account that they add to the sysadmin role, right? Enabling to take full control of the SQL server. Then they gain the ability to perform other actions like deploying payloads like coin miners. Okay, well, there you go. There you go. Defender typically monitors the use of PowerShell in their environment. SQL PS exe utility, which comes with all versions of SQL by default. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Okay. Well, I didn't know about SQL PS until just now, so that's pretty good. Experts pointed out the use of SQL PS tool allows bypassing script block mdul tick logging. I don't know what that is. Go look that up. Enable script block logging. Okay, scrimble lock or something. Scrimble to tick logging. They got to have spelled that wrong, I think, probably. Used to record the content of all script blocks it processes. There you go. All right, so this is an uncommon, lol bin. Exactly. So this is some security affairs. So that's a good one. Let me pop that. Doink. There you go, y'all. You can go check that one out. Experts recommend not to expose SQL servers online. Duh. Secure them with string. I think that's supposed to be strong admin credentials. Apply latest security updates. Enable logging to monitor potential attack pattern. Wow. Okay. Per Luigi. Okay. I'm gonna assume that maybe his autocorrect was causing some issues there. So see what happens. Microsoft Goof is pushing us to wait 30 days after updates go live. Sad face. I was finally building acceptance to patch within 2 weeks. Damn, that is super rough. Yeah, it's one of those things, they run hot or cold, right? They either, because every time they put out a vulnerability, right, it's I wouldn't say it's Oracle crushingly bad, but there's for every RCE out there that they want you to patch immediately, there's going to be one that's like, oh, well, we need to wait a few days. I mean, they did talk about getting rid of the whole Patch Tuesday thing by that rolling patch function or whatever it is they were going to do. I think we definitely talked about that. It was they had some kind of system where it was like they'll allow you in upcoming updates to push it out to like 5% of the people or 5% of your infrastructure, and then another 10%, and then kind of like how they do with the builds of Windows 11. So you're either like you're in the Gen Pop group, general populace, you're in the beta build, or you're the insider or something. You're like Alpha Ring, the beta ring, and then Gen Pop or whatever. Um, they suggested you could do that for your own environment, so you could test it out with people. Maybe your IT and security folks aren't going to be in the alpha list; they may be in the beta list or something like that. But if you've got people who want to be early adopters for all the new stuff, you could push it out to them, and with them understanding that it could cause them issues. But the idea would be they would roll you back. So At Johns, do you have you may not be able to push this to all your DCs, but could you push it to like do a partial, like if you've got 3 DCs, could you do it to one of them, and then would that have caused any issues? I mean, or are you required to patch all of your DCs at one time? Because that seems like that's not a safe thing to do. Or maybe keep one as a secondary or keep one offline, and then after you've patched the other one or two, then when that those don't screw up, then you don't have to worry about promoting. You can promote the one that's offline back into the system and patch it. I mean, how are you handling updates? You, some of these you really can't wait 30 days on. Oh, the other thing that I've enjoyed doing when I'm traveling, and Smart Sheets is not a member or not a sponsor, but one of the best pieces of swag I got from them was like a 20-ounce metal water bottle, and I take it with me when I travel because it's easy to we usually patch together. Oh, really? Okay. At previous places I'd worked at, we always we patched. We had like 3 DCs: primary, secondary, tertiary. We would patch the primary and leave the secondary and the tertiary kind of, we would, I think, how did we do it? We took the tertiary actually offline. That way it couldn't accidentally propagate something to it. and then we would patch primary and leave secondary demoted. And then if nothing happened with primary, then we would bring the secondary. This was all before, back in my day, before Azure was a thing. So that's just how old I am. Um, you know, we had been burned like this stuff before, so it was like, you patch all your DCs at once, and it's like, oh, we don't have a domain anymore. Great, and so yeah, keep them the same. Okay. Um, well, maybe we just had some magic sauce that we used to not screw up our DC sync. So, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, I can definitely see that where you're having issues, but you would thought Microsoft would figure out how to, I mean, at some point you would have to bring other DCs online, right? So you're either going to be building new boxes and replacing the old ones, or snapshots rule. Okay, okay. You're running your DCs in a virtual environment, then I'm assuming, or are you doing like restore or recovery points or recovery checkpoints or something? Enforcement. Use Kerberos operational log relevant computer to determine which domain controller is failing the sign in. What? Oh. So, in my moderator channel on my Slack, when I bought premium internet at the hotel, we're staying at a Marriott. Um, the browser sent me. I don't think I have it on here, which is good. All but one are VM. Okay, that sounds like a great idea. Having part physical, part VM. When I signed up for the premium internet, oh sorry, premium internet. Um, it sent me to a URL. What what you need to buy internet when staying at a hotel. So Super Lolly, the I actually tried last night to do a stream, and as all of you know, nothing happened. The internet here um, was slow enough that it would not support even a 720p stream. So it would pretty much have been me talking like this with nothing on the screen, and it would have been clippy as shit. I actually did some bandwidth tests before I started, and my average frame rate per second was about 15 frames per second, and it was dropping me on the connection, and that didn't include even doing things like attempting to stream some video. So um, at best, I think I had 6 megabit down and like 6, 7, 8 megabits up, which I don't know why it couldn't support the streaming, or maybe they have some kind of issue with that. So, but I love y'all and wanted to make sure that I got at least a stream or two in while I was down here. I didn't want to go the whole week without streaming, so I splurged, and I will be able to expense it at work because I'll just say, oh well, I had to do some work or something. And it's only $8. I think it was 8.95. But anyway, when I signed up for it, they asked me for my name and my hotel room number. Which, after I had signed up for it, I was telling the moderators in my Slack channel, I was like, all I need to do is hear somebody's last name and figure out what room number they're in, and I could have easily have you know had them buy my internet for me. But the other thing was, when I actually um, uh, approved it, after I'd given them my name and hotel room number, the URL had a lot of inputs that could have been fuzzed, including things like how much the cost of the internet was, the MAC address of the computer, uh, whether or not it was a premium service. Remember this machine equals one. I mean, there was a ton of stuff on there, and and I was telling Mr. Pack, our moderator in both our Slack and our Discord, that if I'd have been more of an S bag, I would have maybe fired up a little burp, and maybe fired up a little bit of burp intruder or repeater or something like that, and seen if there was a way I could get premium internets for nothing. Um, or if there was a way to, actually, I know it could have been real D bag because I know that the room numbers of some of my coworkers, I could have used their numbers and names and gotten premium internet that way. But I'm a good person, so it is what it is. It's one of my curses. Um, but yeah, it would have been interesting if I was really in the you know tinkering mindset to see if it would have been possible to get free internet, free premium internet in this case. But yeah, the premium internet here was like 20 down and 20 up, so it was really nice. I would think most InfoSec practitioners just live by their moral code when going to public places. Yes, yes, Super Lolly. Some of us have a moral code. I just think that for some of us InfoSec practitioners, we're curious, right? Um, we want to see if a thing is true, if our supposition is correct in this case. I actually know somebody who worked in hotel IT, and uh, it would be my guess that it would not be very difficult to do exactly what I had said. Um, and much like most industries, you know, they probably aren't making a ton of money on internet, but there are some people whose moral codes and compasses don't always point north. So, yeah, I mean, there's, and DEF CON and Black Hat. It's like people think they can get away with things, and they probably can. But and to be fair, if you're hacking, hacking for premium Wi-Fi to save $5 or $10 in my case, you know, I, it is what it is. I mean, mine isn't fear of getting caught. It's just I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be somebody who acts like that because I wouldn't say I have a reputation to uphold, but it's just one of those things. So you know you 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 know you can't be a hypocrite, right? I can't say, well, doing things like that is bad, and then I'm turning right around and firing up burp to go, oh, let me go poke at that a little bit. And I won't lie, I've done that in the past when I did assessments, physical security assessments, and I was staying at a hotel. I might have tried knocking a few machines off the Wi-Fi connection by using injection, stuff. You know, that was when I was younger and dumber, and I do own that, and I probably should not have done that. Um, you know, it wasn't a thing as well. Actually, it was. It was a could I try that? And yeah, before back in the day, I did that, but I was actually doing it legitimately at the hospitals I was doing audits on to see if it was possible to do those things. So, but yeah, we all do stupid things when we're younger, and we learn from those. So yeah. Let me see. So yeah, this is the millions of firmware vulnerabilities in Lenovo product. Uh, attacks of lull bins. Yeah, yeah. Pure Luigi. Yeah. Threat landscapes. Yeah. Let's see what else. What else do we have here? National bank hit by ransomware. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that one. I heard about that one. Yeah. $15 million from Coveter ad fraud operations. Okay. Ooh, senators ask FTC to investigate ID.me for deceptive business. Oh, man. I have an ID.me. God damn it. Which really sucks because they use that for verification of veterans for um, discounts. So, like, if you go to Microsoft's website, they want to verify that you're a veteran. So you go to ID.me and you'll get they'll ask you to upload your DD-214, or they'll ask you to um, verify you're a student or something like that. So that's not good. 4 U.S. senators. Da, 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 Oh, this is the facial recognition stuff. Okay, all right, that's cool. All right, I don't have the facial recognition stuff yet, but okay, that's good. All right. Well, I mean, it's not good, but it's not the ID.me stuff for identity verification. But yeah, I really don't think they should be keeping facial recognition. I don't know what it means when they say they're keeping facial recognition like databases of photos. It seems to me you could do somewhat the same with just you know, take the photos, but then make a hash of it, or take a value based on the facial geometry and just make a hash of that. So that way you're not actually keeping the facial information or the pictures themselves, but you're keeping a hash of the person's face. And that might be the way to do it. Instead of keeping a password or your face being your password, it's the hash that's derived from the values in your face. Like they take points like on your inside and outside eyeballs, your nose and etc. Um, that might be that. Or, they may look at 22 different areas on your face or 20 areas on your face and only take data points from 13 of those. And, depending on which 13 are those, might be an easy way to figure out what you're doing. But yeah. So yeah, there's that. I think it's like Senator Ron Wyden is the one of the people that mentioned it. Yeah, there's several there. So Chair Lena Khan, yeah. Senators emphasized what they viewed as a troubling inconsistency in public statements about the kind of facial recognition technology on which it relies. Okay. One to one compares an individual's photo to a single other photo to confirm the photos depict the same person. Okay. One to many facial recognition compares a face against a database of other faces to find matches and is much more controversial, particularly since studies have found that African and Asian Americans are far more likely than Caucasians to be the victim of a false match. Yep. And that's probably because a lot of technology like that is not tested properly on different kinds of faces and instead only done on one type of person or group of people, pretty much being white dudes or white people. Um, yeah. So anybody with a different facial geometry or different areas of their face that aren't well represented by white bread people like myself, white, you got specific, you know, this area here or whatever. Yeah, you're gonna run into issues. So that's problem. That's what's some of the other things that we've seen that with, not just facial recognition, but like voice prints. You've had problems with that where you're testing things, and I want to say that I've seen stories where it was like certain accents couldn't be done either. So, um, specifically like from the Caribbean or people with really heavy accents did not do facial geometry very well, or not facial geometry, but a vocal recognition very well. You know, or they had to go through additional extra training because there were too many false positives. Let's see. So, CyberScoop obtained and published internal or corporate chats from days before the LinkedIn post about which multiple employees expressed concerns about the company's deceptive public statements about one-to-many facial recognition. Dang. Okay, so sounds like somebody inside the company may have leaked some chats. Yeah, because CyberScoop had to get those somehow. CyberScoop just didn't ask for them. Well, that's an e-discovery nightmare for a lawyer, isn't it? I'm wondering if ID.me is going to be looking at e-discovery practices in the near future. Yeah. Within days, company edited numerous blog posts and white papers on its site that previously stated the company did not use one-to-many to reflect the truth. Ron Wyden. Okay, so Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon. Ed Markey of Massachusetts, Alex Padilla of California, and Cory Booker of New Jersey. Cyberscoop obtained and published misleading customers about how data use their biometric data, including that it would be stored in a database and cross-referenced using facial recognition whenever new accounts were created in the future. Oh, okay. So that's the bigger issue right here. This allowed ID Me, a deceptive, to win federal and state contracts otherwise would not have attained. A fact senators say could constitute deceptive and unfair business practices. Okay, so that was the bigger issue. The fact they deceived the government about their technology and got contracts for that, like the ID.me stuff, because I think that's being used by the Veterans Administration now as a way to log in and do second factor auth kind of things. I think they're even using the facial ID stuff for that now. So let me go see. VA.gov, I think. Oh, Crisnap. That's just trash. VA.gov. Sign in. La, 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 la. Yeah, see, they're still using ID.me on their website. Create an account with ID.me. I'm not going to log in, and I don't believe I've logged in on this laptop to the VA before, so we'll see what happens. Create an ID.me account. Yeah, I think I logged in with my Google account before, but yeah. Already have an ID? No, I don't. I don't think I want to go through all the setup again. I'm pretty sure they didn't ask me for my username and ID or anything, but I think I may have connected to ID.me because I was trying to get, I think, the vaccinations. I wasn't trying to jump the line, but it was like, hey, you can, if you're a veteran, you can go and get your COVID vaccines. And I was like, yay, great. And then they were like asking me a bunch of questions about, well, how much money do you make and where do you live and how many people are in your house? And come to find out, I make too much money. And apparently, you have to be poor and be a veteran to be able to get like first dibs on vaccines. So they were like, well, you're in group 8 of 8. And, if we get any extra vaccines, you'll probably not get them, but you'll be in a group anyway. And I was like, okay, great, whatever. Fuck off. So, but yeah. But I have used ID.me to like get discounts at Microsoft Store and Dell. And I think there's a couple of other places where you can buy stuff. Oh, Apple. I think Apple also does ID.me so you can prove you're a veteran. I guess they've had too many people say, "Why, yes, I am a veteran, fellow soldier types," and so they've had to put the kibosh on that. I mean, it's only 10% off, but it's not bad. $2,000 laptop, you get 200 bucks off. Not bad. Better than I think what an employee discount is, or I think it's probably equal to the employee discount at some of those places. Yeah, well, that'll be interesting to see whatever continues off on that. So, let's see. IT buyers don't take security seriously enough. Uh, did anybody hear about El Salvador? Oh my goodness. I I was surprised. I did not actually know El Salvador is on El Salvador is yeah, so we'll use the CNN version because it's not necessarily behind a paywall. They lost tens of millions of dollars because their national currency is based off of Bitcoin. As a matter of fact, they use Bitcoin. Uh, so he pushed the country to, so the president of their country, who looks like this guy, I think, uh, pushed the country to invest in Bitcoin when the market cap hit 3 trillion in summer 2021. And now they're saying the country risks defaulting on their debts to the World Monetary Fund or whatever it is, because Bitcoin Bitcoin has crapped the bed. So, um, BTC prices. Yeah, 29,000. Let me see. Let's look at how badly this rocketed down here year to date. So it was at 45,000 ish. Oh, it was actually higher than that. 47,000 ish year to date. A year ago, it was Yeah, so a year ago in November it was at 61,000 and now it is $29,120. So it has lost between November of last year and now, which is about 6 months later, 7 months later, lost about half its value or better. So yeah, ouch. So yeah, if you bought around here, you're not doing too bad. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it's that was a mistake on El Salvador's president, I think. So, but he was big into cryptocurrency anyway, from what I understood. So it's kind of sad for the folks in El Salvador. They got rid of the colon, which was their previous monetary uh, uh, money. Their money's currency. That's the currency. And yeah, I'd also read somewhere else that they said that everybody had a virtual wallet, and the cologne had been tied to the dollar, like lockstepped with the dollar. But once they went over to Bitcoin, it was actually more difficult to do stuff. They actually had family members who were in the States here sending them money, and sending money through to turn into Bitcoin or whatever was being done through some shady services that ended up taking a cut of what was going on. So that sucks because those folks had no choice. They had to, do what El Presidente said and, use their fake money. So it's unfortunate. Chinese space pirates. Industry must be better secure from open source from threat actors. Must better secure open source from threat actors. Yeah, yeah, I think I saw something about this on Twitter. I think somebody was saying tongue in cheek using, SBOM or bill of materials or something. That was something that came up. Yeah, building security and upfront to secure open source at the foundational level. Apply security controls, have engineering teams test, do code review, use attacker-centric behavioral analytics to mitigate threats. So here's a question that I've got, and to the assemblage here, my 6 viewers. Awesome. Um, if you use open source software at your workplace, so let's say you're a development shop and you use open source software, Node package, you're using wget or curl or something. Do you code review that code, or do you just do automated and manual code reviews of the code that you create in house, or both? Because my thought is everybody says that open source is great, many eyes, you can look at the code, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I argue nobody does because everyone else assumes that everyone else is going to do that, and nobody else does. Now, I could be wrong. If some of you are actually doing automated code reviews, what happens when you find a vulnerability in something like wget or curl or whatever open source package you're using, gettext or libpng or something like that? Do you sit on that? Do you patch it? Do you send the patches out? Definitely no code reviews. Like I said, if big company uses it, then probably good for us small coders to use it too. That's that is a way of thinking about it, Super Lolly. Yes. Um, my problem is if the big company uses it, then it's probably good for us small coders to use it too. The big companies have the assets to actually potentially look at the code review on this stuff, but I would argue that the smaller coders or the smaller companies have more to lose by not doing some due diligence of their own. SAS and DAS is pretty rare in most software development shops. Oh, hey, MT Taggart, what's up? We were just talking about you earlier. Um, that's interesting. Yeah. So, Mr. Taggart and I were talking at the ale house about, you know, I wanted to do code review or something, and I had mentioned this to a friend of mine at work. Um, you know, I wanted to sit down and do wget. I wanted to do a code review of wget, and then as I thought more and more about it, I was like, well, wget is probably something that a lot of embedded teams use in their, shitty little boards and whatever to do updates over HTTP because, they can't afford HTTPS. And if we were to do something like this, where I'm like learning how to do code reviews and I'm using wget, we find an O day. you know, 6 people have also found this O day, so it's no longer an O day. Well, it is an O day, but it now 7 people know, six viewers and myself. Who's gonna file the bug? Ideally, it would be me because I was the one who found it, but I don't know who those 6 people are, and they could immediately turn around and create POC for it or do whatever. So I was like, what do you do to show code reviews and stuff? And I was mentioning secure code warriors. That was one group I was going to reach out to for potential work. There was, I think, Eatabit. Is that Eatabit? Yeah, this one was a good one. Code examples for various things. So, um, you know, it, this is writing code, but there's got to be other things out there, and secure code warriors is kind of probably what I'm going to be talking to about. Would be like, you've got code, it's horribly insecure. You go through and you review it. So we're reviewing legitimate code with vulnerabilities in it, but it's not going to break the internet if I decide, I want to go look at curl or wget or what have you. Um, but yeah, so 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 Taggart, nobody. I mean, y'all don't. You're using open source, but like Lolly said, you're hoping somebody is actually doing a code review to look at the code that has been committed. But there's nobody doing that, obviously, because Super Lolly thinks the big companies are doing it. Big companies aren't doing it because it's very rare in most software development shops that they would actually take the time and effort to do open source code reviews. So nobody's actually looking at open source code for vulnerabilities unless you have that one person on your team that just really enjoys doing that shit. And that's assuming you get anybody who's willing to do extra work for your open source code, which we've talked to. I've talked to more than one person. Hold on. So, hey, Super Lolly, I'm going to tell you that nobody's really doing any of that shit because that takes time away from doing really, really important things that companies like to do that, makes them profit. Just, just letting you know, bruh. Anyway, um, yeah, I would say big companies are not scanning open source software. They're probably doing dependency checks against versions. Like you've got your syncs out there, you've got people keeping track of dependency checks, like, oh, this dependency is legitimate um, from the company itself or the developer itself. Like, I don't know, uh, right pad in this case instead of left pad. You might have a right pad out there, and I don't want to say all of them, but I think the syncs of the world or whatever is just saying, oh yeah, this is legit, this is from this legitimate GitHub, this was in some cases signed by a developer or not signed, but this is a legitimate version. I don't know if Sync and them are actually doing that. I know that GitHub has actually opened up an initiative so that let me see, GitHub devs top 500, I think it was top 500 npm. Yeah, so they're securing accounts with 2FA, which helps with some of the supply chain issues. I would hope that maybe the GitHubs of the world are doing something like that, where they're actually scanning code or doing something like that. Maybe I can talk to one of my friends over there. But yeah, I I can't imagine that you know, with several hundred dependencies, any company or any company, you know, first, second, third, or even fourth level dependencies, like the Log4j stuff, for instance, were they actually looking at the code? And to be fair, Log4j would not stand out as a problem, right? The issues there with the JD&I stuff, that is as designed. That was not a bug. That was kind of a feature. It's just a really shitty feature that was added, um, probably for a specific use case that somebody thought was a good idea. That would not have been found by code scanning, right? Because that's legit code. Now, the buffer overflows and potential RCEs and stuff. I mean, one of the things that I definitely want to do is, maybe going through some of this stuff because I actually do want to. I'm doing code review stuff at work now, so I need to understand what a potential buffer overflow looks like, what input validation looks like, and not only what it looks like, but what it looks like done correctly, right? Um, Dang, but yeah, from practice, I know some companies here will only allow you to pull from their own server. So if you want some open source tools, you put in a request, the security team will review it and pull it for you and put it in the server. Interesting. Okay. Um, Most devs just write their own as asking for this involves a lot of process. To be fair, Super Lolly, developers writing their own stuff, yeah, it's going to take a lot of extra time, but then y'all own that code and you don't have to worry about people. Oh, what's this? Jesus Christ. I'm sorry. An hour ago, possible abduction attempt reported by a Fall City student. Thankfully, student is safe. Jesus. Okay. Sorry, that was I got what it amounts to an Amber Alert for my school, my daughter. So apparently it was scanned a couple of months ago, or a couple of hours ago. Most devs write their own. Is this fault? Yeah, and it might be worth the time and effort for a dev to write something other than to, I mean, there's packages of all kinds. So if there's something legitimate that your company will maintain, then great. I mean, there's far too many little apps that one of the dumbest ones I think I seen was it will automatically write for loops for you or something like that. It was just really something. Just I don't. It probably took you more time to put the download this dependency and put it in than it actually did for you to actually write the for loop that you would have needed. Um, yeah, I mean there's a lot of those little fart apps out there that don't need to be don't need to be made, but somebody thought it was a little cutesy thing. I'll just use this shim every time, and that'll save me some time. Oh, 100,000 other developers are probably just as lazy as I am and don't want to figure out how to write a for loop every time, so they're going to do that. I get it. I still look up Nmap switches when I'm running Nmap. So it's definitely a thing where I understand and sympathize with that. But yeah, I mean, all right. So what are they saying here? Mike Hanley. Let's see what you got to say, Mike Hanley. Developer accounts are frequently targets for social engineering and account. Oh no, wait, that's not what. Industry must better secure. There we go. Andrew Usakas. Oh, this looks like a thinly veiled discussion here from what ThreatX does. Oh, they referenced Log4j. Yay! What made this attack so far-reaching was that the vulnerability stemmed from a widely used open source code. Threat actors rely on subverting open source for malicious purposes. Log4j was not a vulnerability. I that has always been my under. Let's all remember the left pad npm. Yes, let's pour some, let's pour a little bit out for our friends at Log4j. Yeah, there we go. Or left pad, yeah. Well, that was another example of somebody rage quitting, right? I mean, that's one of the first protest wares seen. I mean, he rage quit and decided he didn't want his stuff because of something that somebody had done with NPM. So that was an example of what we call protestware now, I would imagine. Um, so it was my understanding that Log4j was not a vulnerability. It was just a really crappy feature, but I could be wrong. So, subverting open source for malicious purposes or able to capitalize on inherent vulnerabilities associated with this code and remain undetected. As an industry, there's often a belief that vulnerabilities with open source will be easy to spot, but this isn't the case. Log4j was put into production in 2013, and nobody noticed any issues until it was already too late. Okay. Yeah. At its core, it's ready to use software that enables teams to decrease development time. It speeds innovation and empowers developers to work relatively well. Log4j was absolutely a vulnerability, though it was the JDNI implementation accepting expressions that could be parsed and executed. Well, okay, no, that's fair. I had thought that the JDNI stuff was added because somebody had asked for it specifically. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, the implementation I think was done incorrectly. I think that may be. I hope that's what I'm hoping that that's the agreement we can come to. Um, the JD&I thing was a stupid feature to add, and the implementation of it was done in even a more stupider ist stupider is yeah in a poor way. It was done poorly. They had to maintain the JD&I import for backwards compatibility. Yes, yes, and that's the problem. Yeah. Yeah, the thing I had read the mailing list, and there wasn't a lot of debate in this. It was like somebody said, "Hey, I've created this where it makes JD&I lookups," and nobody said, nobody looked at the code, right? Super lolly. Nobody looked at the code. They just kind of assumed everything was going to work, and that was all correct, and implemented it, right? Um, yeah. Additionally, bugs may be overlooked as developers assume it's the community's responsibility to locate and fix them. Yeah. See, ding. May be overlooked as developers assume it's the community's responsibility to locate and fix them. While many hands often make light work, it's a common problem with group work that doesn't have clear processes in place to ensure a consistent product. Everybody's a developer, right? There's no manager. Or, you know, it's a manager who does management work at work and only wants to crunch on code doesn't want to be a manager, doesn't want to manage people, doesn't delegate things. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's also a very common misconception when it comes to open source. Many of them rely on open source. They don't view the code as their own. Yeah, there you go, Super Lolly. There you go. They don't view the code as their own, and they don't apply the same security controls they would to their own natively built code. Why is that? Everybody's looking at the code, right? Yeah. That means open source libs often escape security testing and code reviews, which creates an environment where bugs and flaws can get baked into a product at a foundational level. Okay, so I did not look at this story before. Um, it's it's for me, it's just logic. Nobody, we, open source is OPP, right? Other people's problems. You know what I mean? So we only care about the code that we created because it's our IP. That's OPP. Open source is OPP. OSS is OPP. There you go. I like that. So they're saying there are actions we can take to better secure our open source code from threat actors. If you're using code scanning tools, scan all the open source libraries you're using. I would also encourage developers to contribute to the projects. Yes, yes. And to be fair, there are some companies that are giving back to open source. Um, the other thing is though, this may be a legal issue. You're using open source, but you're modifying it. And depending on the licensing for that, if you make modifications to it, you're supposed to share those modifications back to the original creators. And that may not be happening everywhere. They may be adding their own secret sauce to things. There may be a very real reason why companies don't contribute back to open source, even though they take the open source openly. Um, yeah. Um, I'm not saying that every company is like that, but thinking there's some companies out there that may actually be making changes to open source code without actually sharing it back. So um, that is a problem in itself. Ensuring that security is built in upfront will help secure potential vulnerability gaps are closed, and it has the added benefit of helping your industry peers who rely on open source. I'm actually thinking about telling my product teams to make sure that they're scanning all of the code recently. I mean, it's not like Coverity or Fortify, or it's a story of how everybody thought someone will do it. Anybody can do it, but nobody did it. Exactly. That's what yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, we assume people in open source, and open source people have enough problem as it is. I mean, we've talked with the guy who does crack crack map exec. Yeah, Bite Bleeder. So we had Bite Bleeder on talking about this stuff even before it become a huge issue. But when we interviewed him on the podcast, he was like, I think, in the amount of time that he's had releases done, he says he could count on one hand how many people has contributed code. And it looks like we've actually got more people now. So good for him. That's awesome. We've got more people doing code reviews, or not code reviews, but commits. And his thing was he was trying to find a way to help folks like himself who are open source developers get support, whether it be monetarily, more contributors, people who would submit source, etc. And GitHub started doing that with like sponsorships, or they're giving stipends. Yeah, yeah. Crack Map Exec is really awesome. Yeah, I've reached out to him more than once to have him come on the show and talk about some things. Yeah, Crack Map Exec is a really cool tool. Maybe actually have him on the show just to do a demo of Crack Map Exec. That might be fun. But yeah, so yeah, he's doing a CM partnership with Kali. Sponsor if you want to sponsor this project. Yeah, so sponsoring now, he's got it seems like he has a viable model on supporting himself and Crack Map Exec. You get latest updates, latest issues fixed, latest features. So there's other things there. So and you can also join his Discord. There you go. Go check that out as well if you're interested in offensive tools, or maybe even helping yourself with regards to that. So, attacker-centric behavioral analytics. Okay, this is where we're getting into ThreadX. He starts talking about his company, ThreadX, which is so awesome. Whatever. Yeah. Um, yeah. It's great. All right. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, this person does make some decent points about don't just scan your own code, scan all of the code that you're using, because at some point you now own the problem. If the problem is with a third party dependency, it is no longer the third party dependency's problem. It is your problem that you didn't look at it and fix it ahead of time. I mean, you could easily, use that as the what do they call that? The justification for, running scans on the, 50, 60 dependencies that you have, or their dependencies or their dependencies. You just say, if the left pads of the world that we're using have vulnerabilities in them and we bake them into our product, how much extra time is it going to take us to either wait for the new patch to come out or fix it? And at that point, the problem is, yeah, you're going to scan this stuff. You may find vulnerabilities. You may end up having to track down false positives, or worse, you may have all of your dependencies and you may have 20, 30 bugs found in a Coverity scan. You're going to have to submit those bugs to those GitHubs or to those developers with justification of, hey, we use your shit. Please fix this because we need to do that. Or submitting your own fixes. Hey, we found this bug. I've already found it. Here's the diff. Go with God or whatever. To share or give back. And Some developers might like doing that, but it is going to take some additional, development time. So just a thought there. All right. I don't want to get into Hack the Box this week. Um, I may come back and do some this weekend, but I would I it's a little late, and I'm about to turn into a pumpkin here. So, oh yeah, well it, man, there is a lot. So F5, big IP. There is there is a lot of that's a lot of pressure on something that we say, oh well, like we talked with Microsoft SQL Server. It's like, yeah, make sure that's not exposed to the internet, or VMware, make sure that's not exposed to the internet. You've got no choice with Big Five, or big IP. F5, that's what it does. It's supposed to be the thing you put in front of those other things you're not supposed to expose to the internet, right? Yeah. It's Botzig. I only know that from Ocean's 8. That's supposed to be like German for crazy or something like that. Yeah. So, like the second this came out, the next day I was like, oh, here's POC, that kind of thing. So, um, did they have any updates? I don't know why they posted this today. You would have thought there'd have been some kind of update. According to public reporting, active exploitation, CISA and MS ISAC expect to see widespread exploitation of unpatched big IP devices. I would say expect. There probably is, because they're saying there's active exploitation. There's already POC out there for it. It's happening. So if you haven't patched shit yet, before April or May 4th, you've probably already been owned. You just don't know it yet. You're just start warming up them IR playbooks, because you're gonna have to do something. I actually expect F5 at some point in the future to say, you know what, we're gonna patch your shit for you, and if they don't already have some kind of package where it's like they manage it for you, where it's like, we're gonna push out the update for you and we're gonna fix it, with the idea that, well, if we break your box because of a bad update or something like that, we'll fix it. But I would not be surprised if F5 has some kind of managed service thing where they'll push out those updates for you. Um, or, like they'll do with Microsoft, where Microsoft's like, yeah, you don't have a choice. You're going to update regardless, that kind of thing. F5 is going to be like, it's too big of a risk. The risk of us breaking your box is less. What's this? Um, yeah, us patching your systems and breaking them is less of a risk for us than the reputational damage or whatever of us having a vulnerability on our boxes, and knowing that people can't do anything about that, or the additional damage of somebody not patching their boxes, them not knowing because they're not handling things well enough, um, to to do so. So if they don't have it, I would expect F5 to come out with something in the near future. There's been too many of these, really, really ugly things to not deal with that. But it sucks because, that's, like I said, that's the technology you're supposed to put in front of the other stuff that's supposed to, not be exposed to the internet. So they don't have, I mean, it's bad, right? So, I mean, to be fair, there are some things you can do on your F5s, like turn off all the admin UIs or something like that, and don't expose those to the internet. Have a jump box, have some way of getting, that done without SSH, or being able to SSH directly to it. There needs to be some other way you're accessing it other than directly exposing your admin UI. A lot of the RCEs and stuff are because you can do an auth bypass or something like that and get into the system. Not exposing your UIs, your management UIs and whatever to the internet is probably, one of the best things you can do. So there are things you can do to harden it, and you should be hardening them. Again, this is one of those things where it's like, you know, why do you allow that configuration F5? Why do you allow that configuration Oracle? If that is an inherently bad thing to do, make it opt in instead of opt out. You know, start the machine in a hardened state and then make the user make the conscious choice to be insecure, you know. I mean, we do that all the time. It's always opt out. So, always have it as open as possible and then lock it down instead of having it as locked down as possible and then open it up, you know. Um, we always try to do block lists instead of allow lists. We should only allow certain traffic instead of blocking all the traffic. That kind of thing. Just gets me. Just gets me. I mean, Windows Server, I think one of the what was that? I think Windows Server, yeah, the last Windows Server I played with, it was hardened to the point where you couldn't do anything on the box. You actually had to open it up, and that was great. I had no problem with that. It's like it was annoying, sure, but yeah, yeah, and I get it. I get it. I work in product security. Every time you do something that makes a user not, jump through a hoop or do whatever affects the usability in some way because, the user just wants it, turn it on, plug it in, get an IP and go. That's all they want to do. You know, screw everything else. And then it's like, oh, well, we got owned. Oh no, why didn't we secure it? Well, you didn't take the time. You just wanted your IP address. Oh. Oh yeah, this is the follow-on stuff with, you need to patch your shite now. So, um that's crazy. 5 days. I mean, that's a huge turnaround. Yeah, federal civilian executive branch agencies. Yeah, this is all that stuff I was talking about earlier with the coin miners and backdoors and such. Um, yeah. VMware said about all four VMware said about all four. Okay. That sentence reads weird for me, but VMware said that all the security patches should be patched or mitigated immediately. Ramifications are serious. Talk about burying the lead there. Super lolly, even worse when their manager forces you to do it without involving your superior. Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah. Hey, boss, why is the nuclear reactor control systems, available on the internet? Well, I like to be able to check the status of the machines from my phone or whatever. Yeah, yeah. Nope, that makes sense. Um, and unfortunately, that is, one of those things where the manager's never going to be wrong because you can always they can always pass that buck. You know what I mean? So, but yeah. Huh. Cybersecurity agencies reveal top initial access vector attack vectors. Hmm. That's an interesting one. 5 days for the U.S. government to turn around vulnerability management is, at least the last time I was in the government space, was unheard of. It was unheard of. I mean, it took them 5 days just to decide, hey, this is probably a patch that we should think about maybe touching and doing. Um, Getting change management on board was a weekly thing. So this patch came out on a Monday, and the change management meeting isn't until Friday. You've already wasted 5 days unless you have a special change management board meeting or something like that. And then, you're dealing with maintenance windows that are probably at like midnight, whatever time, that kind of thing. So, those things don't just turn around. And the fact that they're saying to do it in 5 days, and if there's any teams out there that can do that in 5 days, that's quite impressive. Well, I won't lie. I know some I know some private and corporate entities that can't do that shit in 5 days. So that is terribly impressive. A joint security advisory issued by multiple national security authorities revealed the top 10 attack vectors most exploited by threat actors for breaching networks. Oh, nice. Oh, the Five Eyes. Okay, so this advisory by the agencies from the U.S., Canada, and New Zealand. Oh, no, not Five Eyes. Netherlands isn't part of the Five Eyes. And the UK include guidance to mitigate these routinely exploited weak security controls. Okay. So the top 10 initial access vectors targeted by malicious actors. MFA is not enforced. Okay. Particularly for remote desktop access. Okay. Incorrectly applied privileges or permissions and errors within access control lists. So RBAC issues. Okay. These mistakes can prevent the enforcement of access control rules and allow unauthorized users or system processes to be granted, allow unauthorized users or system processes to be granted access to objects. Software not up to date. Okay, patching. Heard of that one at least once or twice tonight. Use of vendor supplied default configs. Yes. Yes. Or default usernames and passwords. Yes. That happens a lot. Remote services, VPNs lack sufficient controls to prevent unauthorized access. So a sufficient control to prevent unauthorized access. So that's what, auth bypasses or maybe lack of MFA potentially. Yeah. Or, I can't imagine just allowing anybody to connect to it. Strong password policies not implemented. Okay. That's fine. Cloud services unprotected. Misconfigured cloud services are common targets for cyber actors. Poor configurations can allow for sensitive data theft and even cryptojacking. Okay. Okay. Yeah, and some of that could be just they don't know exactly how to use it. I mean, I would say even in 2022, there are still companies that are like, we're just getting into this cloud thing, or um, they're just it's the equivalent of an any rule in a firewall or an S3 bucket or something. Yeah, cloud services unprotected. The other thing is cloud services. There are companies out there that will charge you more for the security add-ons, which is really the wrong way to do that. However, companies that are wanting to save a buck won't want to spend the additional bucks for the security. Not every company, not every cloud service company does that, but there are a few that actually still pay for things like you got to pay $10 extra a month per person per month for MFA. It's a little expensive. We're not going to do that. Okay, great. Well, what's our controls in place? Well, we're gonna need to put in tougher passwords. Yeah, I like my 8 characters, and I like it to be summer 2022. Yeah, no, that's not good. Well, never mind. We'll just implement. I mean, a lot of these things kind of, chain together. Right? Um, Open ports and misconfigured services exposed to the internet. Yeah, we talked about that tonight with the MS SQL stuff, um, and the VMware stuff. If you're, God forbid, putting VMware or MS SQL on the internet, you should be ashamed of yourself. No reason for that. Failure to block or detect phishing attempts. Whew, that one's rough. Because anybody can be phished. The right carrot, if you will, can fish anybody. I've told people, I was like, you send me a Kickstarter email or something, make it look like I did some kind of RPG on Kickstarter. I would have to seriously know that it was happening, or I would God damn, I would probably click on that. Matter of fact, I need to start maybe thinking twice before I need to redouble my efforts to not click on things. Oof, boy, that microphone is a little high in it. Um, yeah, I mean, I get almost daily mailings for Kickstarter stuff that I've kickstarted. It might be worth double checking those emails from now on. So I look forward to y'all sending me emails with Kickstarter esque fishes in it. So poor endpoint detection and response. That's an interesting one. Cyber attackers use obfuscated malicious scripts and PowerShell attacks to bypass endpoint security controls and launch attacks on devices. Yeah, I mean it takes just a little bit extra skill to bypass endpoint security and AV stuff. Then of course you've got the law bins, right? Which are automatically, like SQL PS is a known good file on a SQL box, right? If you've installed an endpoint security program on your SQL server, it sees SQLPS.exe and it's like, oh yeah, that's good. Let that go through. But in the hands of an attacker, it could, we saw the damage that it could potentially do. Joint Advisor also contains a short list of best practices to protect networks against attacks targeting the above weak security controls, poor configs, and poor security practices. Okay. Who's control access, hardened credentials, antivirus. Oh, Rob Joyce. Okay. Okay. Right. And he's absolutely correct. There's no need for fancy O days when weak controls and configurations allow adversaries access. That is 100% correct. So, oh, last month, with the NSA and FBI, the Five Eyes cybersecurity authorities released a list of top 15 vulnerabilities routinely exploited by attackers during 2021. So there you go. Okay. Oh, so these are the 15. Okay, so Log4Shell. So Taggart, there you go. Your Log4Shell, your Log4j is still being used. Remote code exec. Ding. Oh, look, remote code exec. Remote code exec. Remote code exec. Remote code exec. Da, da, da. Arbitrary code execution. Okay. Elevation of privilege. That one's interesting. I mean, conceivably, and I say this conceivably, uh, if you have RCE, you don't necessarily need escalation of privilege. Um, I don't know. I don't know how Exchange Server does on-prem Exchange Server, but it used to run as a service account. So if you got access to the Exchange Server through the service account, you were pretty much game over anyway. You didn't need um, what do they call that? You didn't need system because it was running as a pretty much a service with system attributes on it. Of course, that could be different now, hopefully. vSphere client, RCE, yep. Elevation of privilege, zero logon, so MSNRPC. RCE, arbitrary file reading. Ooh, Pulse Secure, that's Pulse Secure's VPN, right? What the hell? This is why we can't have nice things. Okay, what happened there? Yeah, there we go. Okay. Goodness. All right. All right. Well, I don't know what happened to that, but okay. Let's see. Well, my screen died, but I'm still on. I wonder which screen that is. Okay. Zoom audio. Focusrite. All right. So, oh wow, it's 10:30 or 10:15. All right. Let's see. Focusrite, big screen. Anyway, so yeah, I'll be heading back to Seattle on Friday afternoon, and I wish I could figure out what's going on with my. Let me see. Okay. Let me display capture. Yeah, big screen. Whoa, that's huge. Okay. All right. Oh, there we go. Okay. It's back. Yes. I'll remove one big screen so they still have the other one. Yeah, my USB-C must have died on me or something during the thing there. So, so yeah, Super Lolly, question for you though. Not to go back to the open source stuff when we were talking about that. How do you feel about a developer that doesn't want to enable two-factor auth? And what happens if you found out you were using their software on your system? Because it seems to me the security there of 2FA is to prevent things like attack takeovers or the ability for somebody to do something nefarious with that user. But you have a developer who's creating that software but doesn't want to do what is necessary to secure his own code or their own. I'm sorry, not his, their own code, because obviously anybody can be a developer. Um, does that worry you at all, or is there just too many to worry about to deal with that? Because I mean, I honestly don't know if it's a privacy thing or a control thing. Like, you can't tell me what to do with my own code, which feels very petty and childlike. Um, you know, uh, I I just wonder about developers who, I could see that if there's a lot of controls that they have at work and they're like, I'm finally out from the shackles of my employer and I just want to write code and I don't want to have to worry about doing the shit that I do at work. Problem is, and as I've stated previously, once you get up to a certain level, like what GitHub is realizing, you no longer own your code. Yeah, super lolly. The problem is you're probably using some of that stuff, right? I mean, so um you may not even know it, right? I'm going to open up that GitHub thing again because it talked about, I think they said there were a couple of, let me see, committed to new investments, best individual users. No, okay, so let me see. Developers, leave GitHub over to FA. GitHub's 2FA, Titan security. I want to say I had read somewhere where somebody had said they wanted to leave that. So far, everything seems to be fairly complimentary to GitHub by doing that. According to Mike Hanley, ZDNet, yeah, malicious packages being uploaded to NPM registry, bought supply chain security at the forefront. Yeah, GitHub has to do something here, right? They have to protect their supply chain. They own one of the most popular package repos. You got to do something, right? Um, However, the code repos acknowledge there's a trade-off between security and user experience. 2023 deadline will give the organization time to optimize the domain before the rules are set in stone. Uh, yeah, top 100 packages to the 500, and then those over 500 dependents are 1 million weekly downloads. Yeah. So they do have, looks like, so they've introduced a scanning feature to protect them from leaking secrets. So they'd be like API keys or, um, I don't know, secret keys for AWS, for instance, or something that looks random enough that it could be a password. So that's pretty nice. Enterprise user features an optional check for developers to enable to use during workflows and before Git push. Yeah. Dev quits GitHub. No, 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 no. Pretty much no one quit GitHub over Microsoft acquisition. Hmm. I'll have to find that story, but yeah, it's I do read about I read about this. I don't use GitHub much, but I do know that some devs voiced out that 2FA is very much needed for GitHub. Yeah, I think some devs recognize that, but there's going to be some folks that feel that it's overreach on GitHub's part, like I just want you to store my code. I just want you to store my side project, you know. Maybe there may be actually some develop I would no, you know what? That sounds very short-sighted. If I was a developer, it I would be a developer like I would treat my podcasts. I would be hitting refresh every 5 minutes trying to find out how many listens or downloads we've had every week. Yeah. I would be completely like I need to know how many downloads I'm getting. Oh my god, I've got 50,000 downloads. I've got 100,000 downloads or whatever. It just seems to me that there's definitely the people, if they're in the top 100 or 500 GitHub repos and they're not doing that, if I was NPM, I would probably publicly shame them and say, look, they represent a danger to your company by not wanting to do this. I, you know, at this point, I don't think, GitHub can deal with the ramifications of a reputation hit if one of the top 500 npm packages has developer or developers that don't want to secure the supply chain. um, yeah. And I would say if those developers don't want to do that, then GitHub can always fork that and just they're owned by Microsoft, so they could support that some way, or get some new maintainers, or um, do whatever. I don't know. I'm not GitHub, and I hope I didn't use the word just because I hate that word. So they could fork it. Somebody who might be willing to take over ownership of it could fork a new copy of that. I mean, it wouldn't stop a company from using the original version, but at that point, you take your chances, right? So it's like, or maybe GitHub throws up a warning every time. It's like, this user is not supported, is not using security controls, uh, like 2FA to secure their account. They're open to this. We just want to let you know that this is a potential risk. Um, there may be some reach there, Um, but yeah. And I'm assuming as many packages as npm has, there must be duplicates of a number of these projects or packages. So if the top one of the top 500 folks decides no longer wants to do the GitHub, uh, do the 2FA and npm, you could probably pull that package and find something that is similar, or just like it, or maybe just a fork of that one that has X in it, or hey, I just wanted to fork this because I wanted to fork it. Hmm. Well, let me see. This has been a fairly stable connection. Um, I'm I'm actually quite impressed for hotel Wi-Fi. You know, that's pretty nice. I don't think I have much left. I mean, I've literally been between travel and this, being in the office. The other thing is, I don't have, I don't feel like I can I've been unplugged a little bit from things that aren't necessarily work related. So it's like, oh, I've, going off and talking to this person, normally I'd have more time to monitor things like Twitter or Mastodon or whatever for threat intelligence or what have you. So there's some downsides to that where, you're, you know, dealing with that. Also, I've missed my step count for the last 2 days. This is the first day I've actually gotten my step count in. So, um, but yeah, um, I so want to talk about zero trust. I saw an article about somebody trying to implement what they call zero trust 2.0. I don't know if that's probably some kind of advertising thing, but um, the legal part is always tough to figure out if you put your code or data online. It 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 is. It very much is. I think from a legal point of view, I think developers have to I think part of the maturity of a project is realizing that you no longer own your code or you are just the custodian of it. At least in my opinion, if I had something that was that popular where it was like people are now. And I think that's probably where some of the protest wear stuff came from. It was like, look, I'm busting my ass here to put out this code and to maintain it, and you jackasses over at Google and the big companies are not paying me for this. Now, to be fair, those developers did not ask for payment by releasing their stuff for free. Um, if they had wanted to be paid for it in the first place, they should, have thought about what happens when you maintain a project like this and you want it to be mature. At some point, yeah, I'm going to charge for it, or, have that in, I'm sure a lot of folks who write code like this don't go into it thinking I'm going to make a lot of money. I just have a cute little, you know, 12 line Python script that, checks to make sure that your loops are, formatted properly or something. But, now 100 million people are downloading it and you're like, wow, okay. And I'm getting, pull requests for, X, Y, Z, A, B, C, and I don't have the bandwidth to do that. And, screw you hippies. I'm quitting. I'm out because I don't want to deal with this shit anymore. At some point, developers need to think about that stuff, right? You get popular enough, it's going to take up your time. I mean, podcasting takes up time, and I don't know what I would be doing if I didn't have a podcast or stream. I'd have more time to think. I think, but it's one of those things that it. I think I've talked to somebody about this before. It was like, do you have I have talked with people about this, the open source sustainability stuff. I think that was probably around the first of the year. We were talking about, some of the protest wear and stuff that had happened, and um, is there outreach from certain orgs or certain groups like GitHub? It's like, hey, you're now popular. Welcome to the big leagues. These are the things that you need to do to be successful or to continue to be successful. Do you have outreach like that where you can talk to people about, hey, you need to be a little more responsible with your code. These are the things we suggest. That kind of thing. So, um, not I wouldn't say overly telling them what to do, but it's like, you have a responsibility to the larger community to not screw things up. So, oh, um, any ASCII. Okay. Hello, any ASCII. Thank you for coming and hanging out with me this evening. I'm Brian. Uh, don't pay any attention to the background here. I'm in a hotel room in LA. So, normally I would be broadcasting from Breaksec World headquarters up in Seattle, but I'm on travel. But thank you for following the channel. I appreciate you hanging out. Um, yeah, we were talking about some open source stuff, and talking about supply chain issues, which is it. Man, is supply chain just the worst thing ever? Is the supply chain issues just super, super painful? I mean, um, it would be nice if we had thought about these things back in the day when all this open source stuff was coming along, but it wasn't even something on our horizon. I wonder what would have happened if we'd had all these supply chain issues or items as open source was coming up, you know? If things like Linux, we had to worry about people infecting code back then, back in the aughts, if you will. Um, and would Linux have been such a big deal if we'd had would it have had such wide adoption if we had the supply chain issues that we have today back then? You know? Uh, if we'd had the wherewithal to monitor the the code for things like injection. I actually I don't know what caused the culture shift there where if it was just, it got easier to find vulnerabilities or it became more lucrative to do so. It I don't I wasn't that plugged into to Linux and things back then, but it seemed to me that it was only when Linux hit the market share that it was really a thing, or when open source hit a massive market share where somebody realized, hey, I can affect 50 million people. I mean, it was the same thing as like when Macs were, around and the prevailing opinion was, well, Macs don't get viruses. Well, Macs can get viruses, except you only had 5 people who had them versus, 20 million people who had a Windows box, that kind of thing. And, Linux never got viruses either because only like one person was using it and that kind of thing. Or, there wasn't market share to affect Linux or to affect open source. And now everything has a huge market share, right? So I think that these issues in the supply chain only really became more prevalent. Holy shit. Now I gotta like look all professional and shit. God damn it. Thank you, GoPro. Jeez. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Oh my goodness. Thank you everybody for coming. Um thank you, GoPro, Slowyo, and everybody. And IOOS3. Thank you all for coming. Um my name is Brian. Just hanging out here with some of my friends. Skyfire, hello. How are you? Um We're we're just here chatting. I've been chatting with Super Lolly and a couple of other friends here to talking about some news this week. We were talking about some of the cybersecurity agencies issues. They released a story about some of the top exploited vulnerabilities currently in 2021. Thank you, AnyAsk. I appreciate that. Yes, it definitely is a raid. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you, GoPro Slowyo, for resubscribing. Um, Appreciate everybody doing that. Um, but yeah, we were talking about some cybersecurity vulnerabilities and some of the supply chain issues, and the vast majority of the issues that are the top 15 most exploited, a good majority of them are remote code exec, and yes, thank you so much. Uh, I don't. Do I have a raid emote? GoPro Slowyo. Yeah, I actually had to read that one too, Super Lolly. And it's any ASCII. You gotta split it up properly. Other than it's Anya Ski, so it's any ASCII, which is very nice. I love that handle. It's very excellent. Um, Let me see. Do I have a raid? Let me. Anya. Oh, okay. All right. Well, excellent. GoPro Slowyo. Um. I got old ass eyes. I can't read that emote. What do you got? Okay. What? Super lolly in his Twitch face. Yeah. Okay, that's good stuff. Okay. Um, but yeah, I mean, the top 15 of these, how many? One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of them of the 15, which is better than 50%, are freaking Microsoft Exchange. That's the other thing I must have buried that lead back. Um, that's really bad, you know? If you still have on-prem Exchange server, I mean, look how much risk you would drop by, if you had all of, let's say you're God, let's say you have all of these things in your environment, which, to be fair, you could have a good majority of these. VMware, you could be oh no, that's okay, Anya. I appreciate you you joining us tonight. Emotes are good. It's fine to, emotes either way. Um, but I mean, let's say you have all these things. So you're a Microsoft shop, so you'll have the Net Logon remote protocol. You have a Fortinet. You have a Zoho manage engine stuff, or you might have you might be completely all up with the Atlassian stuff. Um, and you have Exchange Server on prem. Okay, so let's say you have a good number of these. Maybe you've got an application that runs Java or something like that. Just getting rid of your Exchange server and maybe moving it to an on-prem, not an on-prem, but an off, an O365 instance. Okay, it's good to see you, Anya. Hope you have a good night or a good day. Yeah, appreciate you coming and hanging out. Thank you. Wow, that's Prots Prosta 4K. Yeah, there you go. We'll give you that one. Dalexec, exterminate, exterminate. Yeah. But getting rid of your Exchange server and moving it to say an O365 instance, exterminate. Yeah, thank you, Dalek. I appreciate that. I'm old school Daleks though, from like the Tom Baker Doctor Who, not none of this new stuff with the Matt Smiths and all them. You know, um, I'm old, so hey, Deluxey, thank you so much for coming. But yeah, so like I said, greater than 50% of the 15 vulnerabilities are your Microsoft Exchange servers. So, um, you know, figuring out ways to reduce your risk, if these top 15 of which could completely have you owned up left, right, and sideways, maybe it's time to migrate to an O365 instance. If they're, managing your Exchange for you, then that's just one less thing your IT staff or your defenders have to worry about. How many weekends got wasted by how many RCEs that are in this thing. And if it's a pain in the ass to patch that, as a matter of fact, I think I just saw where Microsoft is saying, oh, we're going to make it easier for you to patch Microsoft Exchange. You know, if you have to wait for maintenance windows to patch an RCE bug, let me see, where was it? Microsoft Exchange. Easier to patch. Maze patch, yeah, we talked about this. Maze Patch Tuesday makes it urgent to patch except your Active Directory servers. So, you know, patch your Exchange servers, but don't patch your Active Directory servers because you'll fork your servers. I want to say, yeah, there it is. Ding. There you go. If Microsoft has to simplify the patching process for Microsoft Exchange, that's really a problem, right? And should be, delivering hotfixes and updates separately will allow manual patching without requiring elevated permissions. So, they say the patches will be sent in two packages, one for installer patches and one for automated updates, and another for manual updates. Um, but yeah, so it it's almost it would almost be worth the money savings alone just to move over to an O365 instance of your Exchange server, just for your IT folks. I mean, if they have to, waste their weekends emergency patching an RCE or something like that. So, I mean, this is something that IT and security folks need to look at and go, okay, how much wasted time and effort are we trying to find maintenance windows, dealing with, RCEs at the drop of a hat? How many times have we activated our IR plan this year just to fix freaking, our Exchange, 2006 server or something? And, what is migration going to look like in a few years when we have to migrate off of this to Exchange 2019 or whatever the new version of Exchange is? Um, it's not always cut and dried and it's not so easy. Sometimes you may be using the old server and the new server at the same time, or something like that. I'm sure I hope it's easier. But yeah. Um, Anybody have anything interesting that's happened to them this week? As I was telling my followers earlier, I'm on travel for work, which is something new for me. It's my first business trip with my current company. I've been with this organization over a year, and this is the first time that we've done an on-site team building event thing. Um, didn't know what to expect coming into it. Actually thought about sitting this one out only because, well, the COVID thing was a bit on the scary side, but I've been masking up quite a bit in the office and when I'm in Ubers or when I'm in close quarters with folks. So that's been pretty good. Um, I masked up on the plane. Thankfully, I wasn't the only person in there, and nobody was harassing anybody about that, which was really nice. Coming from Seattle to LA was only 2.5 hour flight, so that wasn't overly bad. But yeah, I was at the beginning of the stream. I was telling people, I definitely see a value, and for those new viewers, of having in-person meetings, at least in a controlled environment. And not all the time. You know, open office designs still suck, which is what I have to still deal with in this office here for the next day or two. But I do see value in the collaborative power of sitting across from somebody or being able to grab a coffee with somebody and talk about an issue that you've had, or even having a one-on-one with your boss or your boss's boss. Like I have a meeting tomorrow with my skip. So um and I have a one-on-one with my boss tomorrow for the first time ever in Meet Space since I first started working at this company. um and it's actually the first time I've been in a physical office in 3 years. So, yeah. Um, it is a little scary. I won't lie. I actually don't mind being in my hotel room. I think most of my team members are sitting down at the pool right now, enjoying themselves. If they're on, hello. But yeah, there definitely is a benefit to that. I wouldn't mind doing it quarterly. I wouldn't want to do it any more than that. I definitely don't want to have to drive into freaking work every damn day. But yeah, anyone here had an on-site or an off-site? I don't know what y'all call them, but where y'all have gotten together for some kind of exercise or team building event that hasn't been work from home or some kind of pseudo entertainment kind of thing. And how did it go if you had one? Did it change your mind about, physical kind of, being in proximity to other folks, or did you hate it, or did you sit it out, and why did you do so? And there's no judgment here. We had a lot of folks that were like they didn't feel comfortable traveling, and our boss was like, "Not a problem. We'll catch you at another time, or we'll try to, schedule our next one so it's closer to you, that kind of thing." So we were all real good about that. So. Let me see. What other interesting stories have I missed? It looks like there's a lot of stuff. I mean, my RSS feed's 11 hours, 12 hours old, 13 hours old. Vulnerable maritime supply chain. Okay. Privileged pod escalations in Kubernetes and GKE. Oh shit. Oh, okay, so this is legit. This came from Google's blog. At KubeCon in Valencia, researchers from Palo Alto presented research findings on trampoline pods. Pods with an elevated set of privileges required to do their job, but could conceivably be used as a jumping off point to gain escalated privileges. Interesting. Research mentions GKE, which is Google Kubernetes. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for assuming I know what the hell GKE is. Google Kubernetes Engine. Thank you. Thank you so much. See, it's just a little thing of mine. It's like if you're gonna mention a freaking acronym, mention what it is, then say the acronym, then continue to use the acronym for the rest of the paper. So, but I get the point. If you're coming here and you know anything about Kubernetes, you know what GK is. I get it, but obviously I'm an idiot. So, let me see. Because of the use of privileged pods in an attack requires a first step, such as a container breakout, to be effective. So let's look at two areas. Features of GKE you can use to reduce the likelihood of container breakout, or steps the GKE team is taking to minimize the use of privileged pods and the privileges needed in them. Okay. Reducing container breakouts. Number of features in GKE along with best practices you can use to reduce the likelihood of container breakout. Okay. Using sandbox to strengthen the security boundary. That's cool. Okay. GKE sandboxes protected containers, running it against several newly discovered kernel breakout CVEs. Ooh, really? Okay. Got some interesting security bulletins. So here's Anthos clusters on AWS and Azure. Okay. I am not plugged in on GKE or Kubernetes at all. I have no idea what Anthos is. Let's just see. Oh, this is an early CVE number here. A use after free exists in the Linux kernel in TC underscore new T filter, which could allow a local attacker to gain privask. Okay, very nice. Exploit requires unprivileged user namespaces. We recommend upgrading past commit. Oh wow. So they don't even do like version numbers for this. They're like, oh yeah, use this hash, and if it's better than this hash, wait, I'm okay. Well, somehow there's a versioning information here. Excuse me. It's almost 11 o'clock here, so past this point. So yeah, okay, that makes sense. All right, and then of course this is a much later version, much later CVE. Heap buffer overflow flaw found in IP. Oh god, okay, so that's not good. ESP transformation code in IPv4, ESP4, and ESP6. Okay, so it's in a TCP stack. Allows a local attacker with normal user privilege to overwrite kernel heap objects and cause a local privilege escalation threat. All right. Very nice. Wow, man, I wonder what time and effort was required to make this happen. That's pretty damn nice. I won't lie to you, that looks pretty damn nice. Text Debian. Let's go see if Debian has any additional bits in the write up here. Vallis reported a buffer overflow. Okay. And that just goes back to security track Debian. Okay. So there we go. So it's in Stretch, Buster, Bullseye, Bookworm, and Sid. The vulnerable versions are 4.19, 235, 232, and 106. Okay. Very nice. Yeah, so that's a really nice bug. Local attacker, normal user privilege. Normal user privilege. That's assuming that the person doesn't already have sudo set up with no password or anything like that. So, we assume that everybody using Linux is so much more secure. But then the first thing we do when we install Linux is that we go into vi sudo and set no password for our user to be able to sudo as root. So um, you know that's pretty much local admin, right? For boxes, you can set up a normal user, but then your vi sudo is no password for your user. Might as well just run as root at that point. Um, let me see. Unpatched versions of Anthos. Okay, what the hell is Anthos? I'm gonna have to go look this up. I have no frame of reference for what Anthos is, so we'll call it GKE. Okay. Okay. All right. So Anthos. Oh, that's a bit big even for my old ass eyes. There we go. Anthos, migrate directly from VMs, build, deploy, optimize apps on GKE Anthos, serverless landing zones, and VMs anywhere simply flexibly. Flex, flexibly. Is that a real word? Flexibly? It must be. I can't imagine they would put it on friggin' flexibly in a way that can change so as to adapt to different circumstances. Okay. I would have said flexibility, but okay, they obviously have some English speaker, tech writers writing for them. Build, deploy, and optimize apps. They don't pay us money on this. I'm just trying to understand various parts of you know Google Kubernetes and VMs and shit. So um, apologies. Achieve up to a 4.8x return on investment within 3 years. Okay. Yeah. Whatever. All right, Forrester. I believe you. Accelerate your VM-based app migration journey to containers. Okay. I mean, I get that VMs are even to standards are very heavy. So going to a container is much lighter weight. So I can definitely see maybe the rate of return on investment, maybe the cost savings of not having a bunch of instances running, like an EC2 instance where you can run 10 containers or 10 Kubernetes instances on what would be one or two EC2 instances. So that makes sense. Anyway, all right, back to what we were talking about. Security GKE Autopilot. New clusters, autopilot clusters have default policies that prevent host access through mechanisms like host path volumes and host network. Yeah, I really need to find somebody who's like tight with Kubernetes. And I know Ian Coldwater, they know a lot about Kubernetes. We've had them on the show numerous times. Uh, well, numerous being once, but like a two-parter episode talking about Kubernetes. And that was actually a while ago. I think they're like 1.18 or 1.19, and I think when we had them on the show, they were talking about it being 1.6 or 1.7 or something like that. So it's been a hot minute. Maybe worth time to have them back on the show to talk about that. So yes, it looks like there's a lot of changes that have occurred with this. So oh. Container optimize OS with Container D. Oh, you can run Ubuntu with Docker. Interesting. That's very interesting. Hmm. Windows Server LTSC. No kidding. That's long-term support contract. That's like LTS, but for Windows. Very nice. Or long-term servicing channel. My bad. Um, image node. Okay. Very nice. Yeah. So I mean, there's a whole hardening guide here for those of you who use Kubernetes, written by the Googles themselves. Again, as I had stated before with some of these things, why need a hardening guide? Just put it in a hardened state and then let people, loosen it up as they see fit. You know, we do security back asswards, instead of coming from a completely hardened state to one that is less hardened. You should The user should be allowed to say, okay, I want to ease restrictions on this. I don't want to have to tighten restrictions. Um, I would argue that having it in a hardened state at the start means that you're going to have to understand more about what it takes to operate your system in that area. And you know, just as you have wizards for hardening or guides for hardening, you can have a loosening guide instead of a hardening guide, you know. Or, you have some examples of how, you might unharden it to do certain things. Like, yes, I would like to run Windows. I would like to run Windows LTSC clusters inside of my Kubernetes. Well, okay, here's the 5 things you need to do to allow LTSC to run in your environment. Bless me. Hotel AC, Hotel AC will get you every time. So yeah, that I assume that this is updated on a regular basis, being the documentation that talks about Kubernetes. It is quite a prodigious. Okay, so last updated, yeah, boy, it was updated 5/17/2022. So yeah, May 17th. So it was updated yesterday. So that's how update this is. So if you want to run Kubernetes in your environment, there's also CIS benchmarks for your Kubernetes. Um, so if you're worried about audits or anything like that, you can go in and look at the Kubernetes CIS guidelines for that. Boink. Yeah, okay. So Google has been kind enough to put them all in the same documentation site. Even, excuse me, level 1 and level 2s. There you go. That's nice. Scored and not scored. Okay. Okay. Equivalent control depends on the environment. So yeah. Ideally, what you'd want to do is take your initial, you know, before hardening, then after hardening, and figure out how much you've improved. So if you want to show metrics there, you could say, well, when we started hardening, before we started hardening, we were at like, 7 of 10 or something like that. After hardening, we're at like, or no, let's say we were at 3 of 10 if there were 10 controls. After hardening, we're at like 9 of 10. And then you can go in and say, well, these are the risks that we still have as issues. At this point, this is a nice trade-off. These are 1% risks. These are risks that are, um, it would take additional stringent requirements to do, like, you need to be physically on the same network as the Kubernetes box, but we have network segmentation and network access controls and VLANs with access controls on them, or filtering to keep people from doing things, etc. I mean, they're, you know, you have to, you're never going to get 10 of 10. I mean, again, if you want to be that secure, you're not going to be able to run a computer. But what you want to do is show how you've reduced the risk, and then what residual or what leftover risk is there. And I actually have one of the things that came out of today's meeting, or team meeting, somebody from the banking industry highlighted like the 8 types of risks, and I had reminded myself 8 types of risks. Is that no? This was like financial security. She came from a financial background, which I found interesting how they have different things. Like, she mentioned reputational risks, operational risks, and various things like that. Financial. Yeah. Yeah. Is that it? Credit risk, market risk, operation. I don't think that's it. I think I think I'm gonna have to talk to her about that. She did mention reputational risk and operate. Oh, you know what? That may be them. I don't know. Yeah, I definitely want to talk to her tomorrow about those because I found those interesting because you're going to have different appetites for each of these risks, right? If this is, again, legitimate ones. So if you um, are a PR person, your reputational risks might be far higher than um, dealing with the operational risk. You know, your job is going to be have to fend off the sharks of the press because they're about to, just, kick your ass for having issues with a product that came out that isn't doing well or something like that. I don't know what a moral hazard is. That sounds interesting. Not sure what a moral hazard would be. Credit risk. This is okay. Well, that's not what I wanted. I wanted continue to part five. Okay. Part four of 14. Jesus. Okay. All right. Continue on through this. Liquidity. Where's the I think it's screwing with me here. Moral hazard. Let's go search for moral hazard. Lack of incentive to guard against risk where one is protected from its consequences by insurance. Oh, huh. Okay, okay. That, huh? All right. Well, that's interesting. So, moral hazard is a situation in which one party gets involved in a risky event, knowing that it is protected against the risk, and the other party will incur the. Oh, man. I didn't know. I didn't know this was a thing. Okay, so last week we had Ming Lim on, who's the VP of product from Digital Defense by Help Systems. Now, very ignorantly, I did not realize uh, what Help Systems owns, and I believe it is Core Impact. Let me go and double check. It's one of those uh, quote unquote hacker tools. Core Impact. Is it Core or Canvas? No, Help. All the products. Cybersecurity. Cobalt Strike. My bad. Cobalt Strike. There we go. Apologies if you were like, he doesn't even know. But yeah, I had interviewed Ming and I had not made the connection that Help Systems was that Help Systems. Um, and so we were talking, I think, in the second half of our podcast about insurance and how some companies get insurance and think they're off scot free. And some insurance companies are like, now, yeah, no, you didn't do your due diligence. You didn't do X, Y, and Z. And they're actually inserting themselves into certain compliance regimes or frameworks like PCI or HIPAA or SOC 2 or SOX or what have you. And companies who think they can just insurance away all of the risk because, hey, we've got a $10 million rider here that we're going to be able to get away scot free. A lot of insurance companies are looking for due diligence and you know the moral hazard stuff, right? And when this said this was, the bore the some organization might just assume, insurance will pay for it. We don't have to do shit now. I did not know that that was an actual term. So that was a long story, but yeah, that's interesting. I'm going to have to bring this up to my coworker tomorrow. So, yeah, you can go and check out these various types of things. Now, it should be understood that each one of these may have subcategories. So, like operational risk may be the cybersecurity risk. That may be where the cybersecurity risk sits. Um, Business risk seems like might be um, risks to the business, the profit, if you will, or um, and some of these might actually have cross connections, like reputational risk. Your reputational risk is too high; it may affect your business risk or your liquidity or other items. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Let me see. Anybody have any other comments, questions, concerns? I mean, this is an open forum. It always has been. We normally do other things like cybersecurity training. We do some of the Hack the Box Academy stuff. But it is late, and I've had a really long day. Unlike being at home when I'm not on site here, the first couple days here. Um, It's like when I go to a conference, I'm introverted, and then about 7 or 8 hours in, to borrow the vernacular, I run out of spoons, and just have to crash. And today was a good day, and I was tired, but I wanted to spend some time with you fine infosec hobbits and hobbitesses and hobbitums, and yeah, realized I missed doing this, and I packed all this shit up to come down to LA with anyway, including my microphone. So I thought, oh, I probably should get it out and use it at least once while I'm down here. So, but yeah, anybody have any other news that they heard about that I haven't been caught up on? Oh, let me see. Pwn to own. Pwn to own hacking schedule released. Windows and Linux top targets. Okay, so numerous vendors have put forward monetary prizes for hacking of their various products. Oh, here's some easy money. VMware ESXi. Okay. VirtualBox. Oh, okay, that's easy money too, I bet. Um, Chrome, Edge, Safari, Firefox. Okay, that's wait, Edge and Chrome are the same thing. And to a lesser extent, Firefox. Yeah. Enterprise apps, Adobe PDF Reader. Okay, I guess. Servers, RDP, RDS, Exchange, SharePoint, Samba. Samba, that's an interesting one. Endpoint OSs, Ubuntu, Windows 11. Oh, elevation of privilege only. Oh, so they've scoped that out. So when is this? When is Pwn to own? Let's see. Then bank. Oh, started. Oh, what the hell? Oh, it started today. Oh wow. Okay. Well, maybe we'll hear some interesting news coming out of this. Some of the reports, the hybrid events, so entrants who can't or don't want to travel for corona or environmental reasons can participate remotely. That's pretty cool. I wonder if they're requiring people to buy licenses. Some of these things are, like we said, open source, or using Edge, or if you use Windows or Apple Safari, you can just probably hack your own boxes. But Zoom or Teams. Wow. Okay, I haven't seen that one before. Hacking Zoom or Microsoft Teams. Uh-oh. Oh, that one doesn't make me feel good. Yeah, that's not a good one. I have a Tesla 3, by the way, so I did read that story about the replay attacks for Bluetooth dongles and stuff. How was that? Tesla Model 3 BLE attacks. Yeah. Now, this is, yeah, they can steal, yeah, whatever, Bluetooth hack. This is not the first Bluetooth attack that has occurred to Tesla boxes and machines. I think I actually know the people at NCC that did the research on this. It was very well done, very well done. They developed a tool that operates the link layer. So link layer is level link layers layer 2. Right? All people seem to need data processing. All people seem to need data processing. data link is 2, right? Yeah. Lowest layer in the Internet Protocol suite. Yeah, because 1 is the packet level or the wire level. So it should be the second layer. Ethernet and IEEE networks framing protocols such as point-to-point. Okay, so yeah, despite the semantics, link layer sometimes a combination of 2 and 1. Okay, all right, so I wasn't wrong. I was just less right than Wikipedia says. Um, but anyway, so um, yeah, so there it's a relay attack. So they intercept and manipulate the communication between the two parties. So if you're using a key fob, uh, I don't use a key fob, so I don't know if it would work with the application. So like I have an app on my phone. Like, see if I can do this without telling you where I am. Um, so there's my car, Baphomet. I named it Baphomet. Uh, my my wife didn't want me naming it after her. I don't know why that is, but you know. Um, but yeah, so it uses Bluetooth. So I mean, it uses Bluetooth to connect from the phone to the car. So I would assume that similar the fob attack would the attack on the key fobs and the attack on the phone, depending on what the phone is using versus what the fob is using may be different. So yeah, senior security researcher. Both Model 3 and Y use a BLE-based entry system, so NCC's attack could be used to start and unlock cars. BLE replay has not been published. Researchers say they've tested the method on Model 3s from 2020. Oh, okay, so using an iPhone 13 running the version of the Tesla app. Shit, that sucks. Which version do I have on my phone? They use an iPhone 13. I have what? Um, what's what's the app version? That's what I want to know. Let's go into Google. Tesla. Yes, it is. I have version 4.8.1-1032. Okay, so it was released on April 28th. Um, I wonder why they didn't wait until Pwn to Own to push this out. This would have been a decent vulnerability to have, unless they knew somebody else already was using it. Oh, we got a let me see. Let me turn this down. Damn you. There we go. 2 minutes here. So okay, so he's talking. Yes, here's my Tesla. It's really awesome. I love it. Yes, yes. I have my phone. Yes, yes. That's a Model Y. You can tell it looks like a really snub-nosed Model 3. All right. So he shutting it. Lens flare. All right. So he's walking away. I'm sure he's doing something terribly important. I probably should have ran the audio on this, but yeah. All right. So I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, you don't see a lot of videos for vulnerabilities like this. So I will put this link in the show note I'll put this in the chat so people can check that out if they'd like to. Um, yeah. So these were reported to Tesla on April 21st. A week later, they responded. Relay attacks were known limitation of the passive entry system. Oh, really? Well, it sounds like they're accepting that vulnerability, which I'm not a fan of. Oh, so they also found it in a smart lock. Yeah, this sucks. Because The other thing I will say about this is a lot of devices use Bluetooth, including a lot of IoT devices. And if you can find this type of vulnerability in a smart lock, which would potentially unlock the door to your house, um, what else could you find it in? You know, that's interesting. I mean, cameras potentially that have Bluetooth connections, or um, I don't know, to a lesser extent, like earbuds or ear pods, or maybe a fitness watch. Um, my watch also does Bluetooth. Um, yeah. So, Bluetooth core specification warns user device makers about relay attacks and notes that proximity based authentication should not be used for valuable assets. Proximity based authentication. Okay. Okay. That's interesting. This leaves users with few possibilities, one being to disable it if possible and switch to an alternative authentication method that requires user interaction. Another solution would be for makers to adopt a distance bounding solution, such as ultra wide radio technology instead of Bluetooth. Hmm. Okay, so this is the yes that they suggest adding the use the pin to drive feature so that even if the car is unlocked, at least the attacker won't be able to drive away with it. So basically, enable two-factor authentication or a second factor, not two-factor, because that would require your phone, which, but a second factor, which in this case, instead of using an alternate factor like a password or something, like what your phone would be, use a password or a PIN to be able to not drive away with it. So that's kind of cool. Um, my car is currently parked at the airport, so I am very not interested in putting pin to drive on there until I get home because I would not like to be stuck at my house, not away from my house and forget the pin. So, additionally, disabling the passive entry function in the mobile app when the phone is stationary would make the relay attack impossible to carry out. I'm gonna look at that one too when I get home. I may actually, you know what? I might actually make a short video of me disabling that on my car to see if there's something I can do for that. And I also need to talk to some of my colleagues at work as well to, from an IoT security standpoint, if Bluetooth relay attacks are definitely a thing, we might want to look into see what that would affect us. So, well, I need to go to bed. It is 11:15 here, p.m. Pacific time, and I am due to wake up and then at 6:30 tomorrow morning, so that I can get up and go back to work with my colleagues. And it's going to be another long day of meetings. Matter of fact, I think my first meeting's at 9 o'clock, and my last meeting is at 9:30, and I think I pretty much have back to back to back to back to back meetings all day. So, but then if I get back in time, I may do another short session tomorrow night of this. So, I do appreciate all the new followers, Dalexsec and Prosta 40K, Sukai Baru, Sky 100, IO0S3, Loose, Loose, it's Loose, 0x ROM, and of course GoPro Slowyo. Thank you so much for hooking people up here. I want to go and see in the off chance that somebody else is streaming right now. I don't know if that's possible US based, but we will see. You can always follow us on our Discord channel by going to discord.gg/breaksec. We have a vanity URL. What? Uh-oh. Wait a minute. What happened? That was weird. Okay, there you go. Whew. That was that was weird. All right. I I don't see anybody who's online. I think we could probably just raid Maker Deck if everybody wants to. I find that very hypnotizing. So uh, watching CNC machines make things is a very interesting thing. So I like to bid you all adieu. I'd like to just pass on the love from everybody who decided to rate us tonight. So thank you all again for coming. Uh, come back and check us out. Thank you, Super Lolly. I do appreciate that, and I do appreciate Super Lolly is one of our. He's on the other side of or he's on the other side of the world. So I do appreciate him coming and hanging out with me at his lunchtime and a little bit after tomorrow. So let me know how Thursday is for you, Super Lolly. If it sucked, I don't want to be there. So just let me know if anything different happens. So. But yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for coming, and we'll head over to Maker Deck. And yeah, I do find it very calming to watch things happen and be made. So hope you have a good night, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Do 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 do. All right, and we're rating now, y'all. Doom 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 doom. Do 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 do.